Yes, so Imam Ghazali has a book on explaining that the Christians that were part of the Roman Empire or other kind of in Christendom, those to whom the message of Islam reaches in such a distorted manner, they reject it. Are they answerable? And he said he doesn't believe that they're answerable because the faith has been distorted. I would definitely say, sorry folks, those of you just logging back on, that's because we're disconnected. I would say that that definitely applies today. The message of Islam has by far been distorted. So people generally are excused by default. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't speak about the faith, but what it means is that for people finding the faith to be nonsensical, that's because it's presented in that image. It is, unquestionably. The media has a lot to do with it as well. But then we don't help ourselves either as Muslims. Like the recent Asia Bibi case and these kind of things are good examples of, you know, Muslims taking to that meme, you know, like, oh, blood, let there be blood. You know what, this kind of like, this thirst to, so it's a very distorted kind of image you can imagine. So I do feel, and I'll tell you something even greater than that. Allah, I'll do better than Imam Ghazali's quote here. Better than Ghazali. Kya yaad karoge? Huh? Sorry, sister. Right, so Imam Ghazali had said that. But better than him on this mas'ala. Yaar, look at everybody thinking, what could this possibly be? I better quickly make up some stuff now just to live up the hype. Right, so is Al-Qadi Badawi, alright, from the Hanafiya. People, see. Now, Al-Badawi in his book on, in his, I believe it's the Tawali', is it? Right, so in that book, he discussing this mas'ala and some scholars before him as well, and Badawi agrees with it. Other people have highlighted this as well, Al-Ubbi and other people in their tafasir, but that if a person just like he tries to reason and tries to think that is there a God? Like somebody asked me this question before, that what if reason leads you away from God? That what if somebody does reason and the result of their reason is, nah, Islam ain't true? Then he writes that al-kafir that does his own ijtihad, he says yurja afwuhu, that inshallah that person is fine, that he tried his best. And so even if reason does lead you away, but it's what you have, so that's actually very interesting. And it's amazing that these quotes exist by scholars who are reputable, that are often quoted, yet these kind of quotes won't be shared with people. Just eternal damnation, these kind of quotes. And coming back to Majid's question on what about the punishment not being commensurate? Well, Allah, I've said this before, because Allah threatens in the Quran with punishment, He doesn't have to carry through that punishment with anybody. And whether it's a kafir or a Muslim, He doesn't have to. And many of the theologians have discussed this before. They call it khulful wa'id. Allah, when He threatens something, He doesn't have to go through with it. And that's another act of karam, of kind of like, not karam the Hindu, tera karam, not that karma, but it's another act of kind of kindness from Allah. So, and Fakhruddin al-Razi mentions in his tafsir that we believe Allah can forgive everybody if He wants. So these kind of things are, but unfortunately these things are never shared by people. And then what you have is this very dogmatic approach that is shared. But yeah, so, but that's a good question. Now, any question? What about brothers in the back thinking, just gathering questions, but gathering their thoughts, but not.
I've had my hand here for like
Allah. That's like a karate chop about to come down. Yep, go for it, go for it.
If the Quran is غير مخلوق.
غير مخلوق.
Yeah. And but the
Yeah, Marwai guy. I think, yeah, carry on, sorry.
But the language is غير مخلوق. Sorry, I mean the
It's مخلوق.
language is مخلوق.
Yeah.
And the language is part of the Quran. And how does that?
Sorry, that's wrong music again.
How does that like make sense?
So, let me rephrase the question. If the Quran is uncreated, is غير مخلوق,
Yeah.
but the language is مخلوق, is created,
Yeah.
then how is that reconciled?
Yeah. Because the language is part of the Quran, isn't it?
Ah.
And then how the idafa there. So just
Idafa! The idafa as well.
So just, okay, I don't know how
The
to
construct phrase, whoa!
translate these words. So
No, that's
if
good.
you can. What did you? So how that makes sense?
This, this whole debate of the Quran is uncreated and stuff like this is nonsense.
So it is Muslim.
This whole debate is pathetic, stupid. It's caused a lot of unnecessary confusion, and it's rendered Muslims, exposed Muslims to vulnerabilities they didn't actually have. And this is what I said earlier. So this whole argument of saying that this is him, the Quran is God, but it's not God, it just renders Muslims incredibly vulnerable. It makes no sense, because I have never met a Muslim that actually understood this argument, that the Quran is uncreated. Nobody understands what the hell they're on about. They just pretend that they understand what they're reading. It's incomprehensible. This is why Imam Shawkani writes that this mas'ala doesn't make any sense. You don't have to believe the Quran is, uncreated. He says you can believe whatever the hell you want if you want on this topic. None of it makes any sense. That's Imam Shawkani. And the whole point is because Imam Shawkani was at least just being real. He was saying that, look, believe this or believe that, who cares? None of this makes any sense. So I would say that this was never taught by Allah. It was never taught by the Prophet. It was never taught by the Salaf. This debate came after the Salaf. It came, in the time, it's popularized in the time of Imam Ahmad, although I'm sure other people as well in his time had said it, but that is after the Salaf. So, I mean, this was not something the Prophet taught. I always say with Aqidah, with faith, keep it simple. Keep it to what the Salaf believed. What the Quran and Sunnah, that we just believe in Allah. You know, the basic thing, we believe in Allah, we believe in, Amantu billahi wa malaikati wa kutubi wa rusuli wal yawmil akhir, and things like this. I believe in revelation, in prophets, I believe in an afterlife. I believe that, and these kind of things, and that's it. Like, we don't need to, all this creed, it it may give you some kind of power and institutionalization, but along the way, if other people are clever enough, they can easily catch Muslims out. Sifat was a perfect thing that I was saying, that is it's nowhere in the Quran, nowhere in the Sunnah, this belief in Sifat. You know, today, like, I said this I was visited by Salafi brother, and I think studying in a senior year at Medina University, and we had this dialogue, and I've had this with other people as well, and I've welcomed them for a dialogue on this. Any person who's learned, I've welcomed him or them for a dialogue on this sifat. Prove it from the Quran or Sunnah. It doesn't exist. So why are you superimposing a belief structure onto Muslims that doesn't exist in the Quran and Sunnah? Because it's only going to trip Muslims up. By saying we believe in these things which are part of God but they're not God, and they're with God but they're not Him, it sounds very much like the opening, Gospel of John or whatever, about in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and what the hell was all of that going on? So this is, Muslims end up doing a similar thing, but the good news is most common Muslims don't know about it. So alhamdulillah. So there's, you know, that's on the bright side, despite the fact that the clergy have tried to force this onto common Muslims. Most common Muslims don't have a clue about this stuff. So there's good news. It's good news, people. Spread the good news. Amen. Can I have an amen? You know, there was in the debate where, I can't remember where, that David Wood said something, and somebody from the crowd said, Amen! I thought, alright.
Salim is asking,